The canvas water bag was a piece of equipment used in the 1800s and 1900s, both in the US and here in Australia, as a way to transport water and to keep people's water cool. The idea of a canvas water bag was that when the bag was soaked in water, the material would swell and then it would be able to hold water for up to a long period of time. As the water would slowly weep out of the bag or evaporate, cool wind would blow on the bag and actually cool down the water, creating a refreshing drink for people. The bag was often used by hanging it in a tree where the wind could blow against it. It was also tied on saddlebags of horses in the outback, and in more modern recent times it was put on the bonnet of a car, and as the car drove forward, the cool wind would obviously blow onto the water, creating a cool drink. In the Victorian High Country, we had the Kiewa hydroelectricity scheme, which began in the 1900s, and every person who was working on this hydroelectricity scheme was actually given a canvas water bag when they were out in the forests. So it was really a great piece of survival equipment. It was popular in the Australian outback, where obviously cool water to drink was quite a luxury for people. Alright, so I've used canvas water bags quite a few times on my trips out in the outdoors and out in the bush, and I love using them. It gives it an old kind of swagman vintage feel to my trips. Now, I've used actual vintage water bags before, which are not my own, and they're quite hard to come by, but if you can get onto them, I'd recommend doing it. They're usually already in working order. They've kind of been broken up, they're sealed, and they're great to use. Now, the only company I could find in Australia selling new water bags is Trailblazers, and I actually have two of them now. I have two here. I have a guess which is the old one, which I've used, which is all completely sealed, and which is the brand new one. I think you can tell by how dirty this is that I've used this multiple times, and this holds water. This does not leak. This is a new one, and I've often heard people asking me, how do you stop your canvas water bag from leaking? And I've looked into it, and there's quite a few tips and tricks you can use to stop your canvas water bag from leaking, and that's what I want to go into for this video. Now, I just want to show you that when you get a new canvas water bag from Trailblazers, you'll get a little leaflet that comes with it. And the leaflet basically says, before using your water bag, it must be totally immersed in water to soak it and swell the thread. The bag needs to be soaked for 24 hours in a clean container with clean water, no soaps, detergents or oils, because that will contaminate the fabric. So I'm going to show you what will happen if I soak this in water for 24 hours and then I soak this one in water for 24 hours and then I fill it up so that they're both full, and then I hang them up for another 24 hours. And I'm going to show you that this new one is going to leak quite a lot compared to this one, because these instructions are not adequate to stop your canvas water bag from leaking. And there was quite a number of processes that I did to make a canvas water bag that holds water for up to 8 days. I think I tested it. And so let's get into that now. All right, I'm just going to use a wheelbarrow so I can fit both of them in there. Might be easy, just take that off. So I'll just take the caps off both of them. By the way, canvas water bags often had a cork in the olden days that they used to hold water. These are modern ones, so they've got a little plastic cap. I might actually kind of adjust this one and cut this off and put a cork in there to make it look more old school. Now what I'm going to do in both of them, obviously I'm going to soak them, but I actually want to put a little bit of water inside it as well. So there's water on both the outside and the inside. Not much, you don't have to fully fill it up, but just enough so that it sits under the water. Alright, so I'm going to let that swell for 24 hours, and then we're going to come back and we're going to hang. The dog's going mad. Relax, fellas. So I'm going to let that swell, and then I'm going to come back in 24 hours and we're going to hang it up, and we're going to compare the two water bags and see how they perform. Alright, it's been 24 hours later. They've been soaking in here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fill them both up fully, put the lids on, and then I'm going to hang them up, and you're going to have a look at the difference in regards to how much they hold water. So time to fill them up. Alright, so I've got the 2 water bags hanging up here. What they'll do is they'll naturally leak to that point of 3/4. So they're 3/4 full, and then they should stop leaking. Now you're going to see the bag that I've seasoned. You're going to see the difference between that one and the new bag here, which I soaked for 24 hours and followed the instructions. And yeah, I'll come back in a few days and we'll have a look at the little puddle at the bottom of them and see how they're performing. Okay, let's have a look. So, as you can see, the bag that had already been seasoned has heaps of water in it. That's about more than halfway full and has stopped leaking and dripping on the ground. The new bag, after only 24 hours of soaking it in water, it's still dripping, and there's only a little, it's like a quarter full, there's only a little bit of water left. And I'm sure if I left this for longer, another few days, that would still be holding the water and that would be empty. The new bag, that's leaked so much. So I want to show you how you can get this bag to be working like this bag. And the first thing is just soaking it for 24 hours in water is absolutely not enough. What you need to do is you need to let it soak for 24 hours in water, and then you've got to let it dry for 24 hours in the sun. So the threading and the material is actually expanding, it's swelling, and then it's contracting. And I would say you have to do that at least 3 times. At least 3 times. So that's what I'm going to do now. And then once that's complete, I'll show you a few more tricks you can do. Alright, g'day everyone. So it's been over a week now, and the new water bag, I have soaked it, let it swell with water, and then completely dried it at least 3 times. I've also completely dried the old one as well. This was amazing. This has actually been sitting out here, or had been sitting out here holding water for quite a couple of days and had stopped leaking. So yeah, it's such a seasoned bag, it does really well now. What I want to show you now, before I soak it and swell it again, is another little trick that you can use. Now, I have read up on this, and apparently the old canvas water bags used to use wax threading, and I've been reading up on it. I can't verify how true this is or not, but apparently the new bags that are made these days don't have that wax threading. So it is suggested that you can actually rub some beeswax on the bottom of your bag to hopefully add another layer of protection from the water seeping through at a higher rate. So I did do that with this bag. I experimented with it and it actually did quite a good job. So I'm going to do the same thing with this bag here. I'm just going to give it a good fresh coating of wax over it. It's quite cold. I mean, it was 1 degree this morning. The wax has gone very hard, which means it's not going off onto the bag as much. You can leave this out in the sun if you want, or you can just heat it up, which is probably what I'll do. Now, you don't want to put dripping hot wax onto your bag because that could damage it. So I'm just kind of loosen this up. Let it cool so it's not too hard to touch, and then just give it a good coating on the bottom of the bag, and that's going on a lot easier. Okay, now that that's all done, I'm going to soak these 2 bags again, and then I'm going to hang them up. So I'm going to soak them for 24 hours, and then I'm going to hang them up to see how they hold water. And then there's one last little trick, which I actually found was the best trick of all, which I'm going to show you to stop your canvas water bag from dripping and leaking. Alright, so I've got my 2 water bags hanging here. Now, after soaking this in water and letting it swell, then completely drying it at least 3 times, rubbing some beeswax on the bottom of it, I can already see from what's dripping on the ground here that my seasoned water bag is performing better still than this new one. So I'm going to show you the last trick, and this last trick is the one that really did it for me and really stopped it from leaking. Now, this is an old tip that I read up, and apparently the old timers swear by it, and that is to simply add a bit of flour into your water bag. Apparently what happens is once it settles in, it helps seal up the bottom of your water bag, and that'll stop it from leaking. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Chuck some flour in. So not much, just a little bit. I'm just going to add a little bit more water in. So it kind of mixes that flour in well. Now I'm going to leave this for 24 hours. Come back and we're going to have a look at the drips, and we're going to see if it's managing to still hold water. It's actually been a few days now, and as you can see, these bags have stopped dripping, completely dry. There's a good amount of water in it, and so that flour trick has done the job. And you know, both of these water bags are seasoned in now, and I can use these on trips going out in the bush. And there you have it, 2 water bags that are seasoned and can hold water really well. Obviously when putting the flour in this bag, I'll empty out this water, and then you can fill it up again with clean water, and it pretty much does the trick. But look, every single time that I'm going to dry this and then soak it again, then dry it, then soak it again, all it does is just makes that bag season better and better, and so it kind of actually gets better with age. Obviously you want to take care of them. Any tears or things like that can reduce the quality of your bag, but they do last a long time. I've seen vintage bags from, you know, early 1900s that are still working today. So I hope you've liked that video. If you have a tip yourself on how to stop a canvas water bag from leaking, please leave it in the comments. Otherwise, make sure to subscribe, give this video a like, and thanks for watching, everyone.